So, you have the misfortune of wanting to put a lone working hazard in your NG2 or IG2 project. Well, good luck with that. It's not a hazard. I am so ornery. So, terrible movie. Don't watch it. I'm often alone. And actually, I feel all the better for it. Because, see, I don't like people. For me, it's a control measure, being alone. It's not actually a hazard. I jest, of course. I do love people, and I love you most of all. But lone working is often confused with other types of hazards. Let me show you how. We type in lone working as our hazard category. Always check the hazard categories. Lone working. There it is, just there, lone working. So a lot of people make this mistake. Pay attention, because this is the mistake. They're going to say something like workshop engineers use the chop saw and equipment alone. Now, you might say, what's wrong with that? They're alone, it's lone working, yeah? Yeah, let's carry on. They could cut themselves on the saw and suffer an amputation. Now, the cleverer students amongst you will have spotted what the issue is so far, but let's just kind of carry this on. Chop saw is guarded with self-adjusting guard. Only trained users are to use the chop saw. Now, can you see the problem we have right now? We are not risk assessing lone working anymore. We are now risk assessing the chop saw. You see, if your hazard is about lone working with another hazard, and that hazard could hurt you while you are alone, then I'm afraid it's not a lone working hazard. It's a hazard in relation to whatever the equipment is. In this case, it's a chop saw. But if they're using a step ladder alone and they can fall off, it's a step ladder hazard, so that will be working at height. This is the problem with the lone working hazard. It's too easily confused with one of the many other types of hazards. It gets confused with violence at work. Oh, the person in the shop is working a night shift and they could be attacked or robbed while they are alone on the night shift. Well, let's look at the hazard categories. That's a violence at work category. Yes, lone working's in there as well, but you are on very, very difficult ground there, and there's an argument that you have put it in the wrong hazard category. So, best to play it safe with this. The safest way of doing this hazard is to not use it at all, in my opinion. But it is a valid hazard category. You are allowed to use it, so this is how I would use it. I would restrict the use of this to a lack of assistance in the event of some kind of emergency. Office workers regularly work out of hours alone. You got to make sure they're alone, and could suffer a medical incident and not receive assistance. Okay, I think that's the safest way of doing it. So focus on a medical incident or an accident, a vague, non-specific accident, a vague emergency, and they do not have the necessary assistance. So I could go on and say office workers can have medical issues such as epilepsy or diabetes, and could suffer an incident such as epileptic fit or hypoglycemia. Good luck spelling that one. Yay! I got it right. Hey. Or severe anaphylactic shock. There we are. All of which could be fatal if they do not receive immediate assistance. Phew, I think I'm okay with that one. Just remember, big fat malpractice warning here. Do not under any circumstances please copy what I have written. It just needs 2 or 3 of you to copy that, and NEBOSH's automatic systems to detect copying and plagiarism, they will detect that 2, 3, 4 people have all written something very similar, and you will get automatically flagged, reported for potential malpractice and cheating. That will be looked into, and if found guilty, well, that's the end of your health and safety career, my friends. Now, when it comes to the law, what law should you use to help you justify your hazards in this section down here? We've got the specific legal arguments. So let's say you have an action, something about, say, lone worker alarms or some kind of supervision system, whatever your action is. What do you use? Well, I'm afraid, national UK students, there is no lone working regulation. Lone working regulations, 1992. No, nothing like that at all. You are going to have to use the good old Health and Safety at Work Act 1974. The general duties under HASUA, the general duties of employers to their employees, apply to lone working, and you are just going to have to use that duty if you are trying to justify it in this box here. The international student studying the NEBOSH IGC, well, you have some options. Just like the national students, I would suggest that perhaps you might need to use the general C155 recommendation, because the general duties down here, these ones here, these do apply to loan working. If you go for recommendation 164, which is pretty general, again, it says here you've got to provide adequate supervision of work practices. And again, that can be easily applied to loan working, especially if your action is a supervision type action where you're checking in on the loan worker. But international IGC students, you've also got some options in the Safety and Health in Construction Code of Practice. And remember, it only applies if you're in construction, obviously. You might have similar duties in the Agricultural Code of Practice, or the Forestry Code of Practice, or the Dockwork Code of Practice, or the one for mining. I think there's one for mining. So have a look at the Code of Practice which applies to your industry, if there is one. If we just type in loan, I'm so lonely, so lonely. We've got night work and loan working. We've got people working alone should have a means of communication to raise the alarm. We've got loan working should be avoided. Yes, very good. We've got places occupied by lone workers should be inspected at least twice every shift. You should not work alone on or above water, and so on. So you've got some options there if that's relevant. Again, make sure these are relevant to your action in there. Don't just put any old duty justifying something completely different. Anyway, I hope you found that useful. Just be careful you don't accidentally risk assess a machine or a chemical when you use the loan working hazard category.